So if b is between 0 and 1, we have a decay. If b is greater than 1, then we have growth. If x is positive, then we have no reflection. If x is negative, then we reflect over the y-axis. If a is positive, it's like making the y stuff positive, so no reflection. If a is negative, we reflect over the x-axis. If my exponent says x plus h, then I go to the left h units. If my exponent says x minus h, then I'm going to go to the right h units. If I have a plus k at the end, then I'm going to shift up k units. And if I have a minus k at the end, then I'm going to shift down k units. So in the next problem, we're going to read and translate the words to an equation. So I have an exponential decay with a base of 0.8. So I'm going to put my base of 0.8 with a reflection over the y-axis, which means my x stuff is going to have to be negative. I'm going to go back to that though. And a vertical shift of 3 units down, so I have a minus 3 at the end. They don't tell us what our a value is, so we're left to assume that it's just 1. And then it says a horizontal shift of left 2 units. So that means up in my exponent, I have to have x plus 2 to go to the left. But to take care of this reflection of the y-axis, then you have to put a negative out front of that. So you could write that as your equation, or you could rewrite this as negative x minus 2. And then minus 3. And this looks like that it reflected, or that it shifted to the right, but really because you had to distribute or pull out the negative, you really went to the left. And then it says, what would the domain and range of this graph be? Well, so normally my decay graphs do something like this, and then it says, we know that this went reflected over the y-axis, and then it's going to go left 2 and right 3. So my graph's going to look something like that. In general, the domain of exponential graphs is always negative infinity to infinity because we can plug anything in. And then my range, I have to take in this negative 3 into account. So if this graph, this value down here is going to be my negative 3, and I'm going to get bigger than it. So I'm going to get really close to negative 3 but never touch it and get bigger than it. So now what you need to do is pause the video and then come back and check after you and your neighbor try the bottom 2 problems. So now you've done the bottom 2 problems, and for the first one we had to list everything that happened. So this negative made me reflect over the x-axis, this 3 tells me I'm a growth, this plus 2 means I went left 2, and this minus 5 means I went down 5. And then I asked me what my domain and range are, so I sketched a quick graph. I went down 5 and I took my reflection into account, which means my graph's going to be down here somewhere. Again, my domain is going to be negative infinity to infinity, and my range is going to be negative infinity up to negative 5. So you're going to go back to Edmodo, and there's going to be one last video that's going to show you how to walk through and make these graphs.